College football is finally back. It's week 0. There's only a couple games. There's usually a few more in week 0, but only 4 this time. But I will be giving my full predictions for each game, both the score and just my overall thoughts. So let's get right into the video with the first game, which is Georgia Tech and Florida State in Ireland, which I actually think might make it a little bit closer with both teams having to travel all the way over there. But I also think it'll just be close because Florida State's had a long offseason, obviously all the drama with them missing the playoffs, and that embarrassing loss to Georgia in the Orange Bowl. But they also lost some guys like Keon Coleman and Jordan Travis. And also Florida State has to adjust to a quarterback change with DJ Oyungale replacing Jordan Travis. So while I do think they're still going to be able to win this game, I would be very surprised if they didn't, because they're certainly a contender to make the college football playoff and also win the ACC championship. Florida State's currently a 10.5 point favorite. I would say it'd probably be a little bit less than that. I would say probably between 7 and 10 points I think they'll win by. I'm not entirely sure. These games you can never really be sure of, especially these early games. So I do think Florida State wins, but not as much as they probably should, just because it's early in the season. They're still trying to figure things out, and also they're traveling to a whole other country. And I think the Seminoles win in Dublin by a score of 31-24. Next up is Montana State and New Mexico. And even though New Mexico is a FBS team and Montana State is an FCS team, I definitely think Montana State is the favorite in this one. And considering Montana State are also 11.5 point favorites, I think a lot of other people would agree with me. I don't claim to know much about New Mexico football besides the fact that Brian Urlacher played there, but they're definitely one of those teams you consider rebuilding in College Football 25. And considering Montana State is one of the best FCS programs, I have to go with them here. I'll say the Bobcats win 35-27. Speaking of teams you consider rebuilding in College Football 25, here's Nevada taking on SMU. And I definitely think this game's going to go SMU's way. I just think they're the better team. And even though Nevada gets this game at home, I still think SMU's going to win pretty comfortably. I think the Mustangs start their time in the ACC strong after leading the American with a 45-14 win over Nevada. And finally, we have Delaware State and Hawaii. And while Hawaii is also another team you consider rebuilding in College Football 25, they are also playing Delaware State, who is having to travel from Delaware all the way to Hawaii. So that gives them a massive advantage. Not to mention the fact that Delaware State is not a Division I FBS program. So Hawaii definitely has a big advantage here. And I think they're going to win big as well. I'll say Hawaii takes this one 52-7. But respect to Delaware State, though, it must be tough going all the way to Hawaii from Delaware and knowing how tough this game is going to be. And now that those predictions are out of the way, just some quick thoughts on some of the Week 1 games. Unlike some previous Week 1s and other seasons, this year's Week 1 has a lot of important matchups that can decide the future of not only those teams, but the whole college football playoff. The first really big one is Clemson and Georgia. The game's in Georgia. I fully expect Georgia to win, but you never know. Dabo Swinney knows how to win. Clemson still is trying to hold on to some of that past success, and they still have a very good team. They're still obviously 14th in the country, and they're going to be competing for that ACC championship. Miami and Florida State are improving. I think they're the two favorites. I'll be making a video as well about my predictions for the playoff, but for right now, I think Clemson, if they're going to make it into the playoff, into the ACC championship, you got to win games like this. Although I don't expect them to, I don't think anyone expects them to. I mean, this would be the game to prove that Clemson is still here, still competing for national championships, and is still at the top of the ACC. So this would be the game to do it. I don't think it'll happen, but who knows. Another big game, which I'll talk about more in my predictions video, is Miami in Florida. This is one of those games where Miami can't really win, because even if they do win, Florida is probably not going to have a great season just because of how tough their schedule is. Their team is not probably good enough to make a playoff run. So even if Miami wins, this isn't really going to be a quality win the committee looks at later in the season and uses that to maybe give them an advantage in the rankings. For the Hurricanes, really just one of those games where you got to win to set yourself up for success in the future. It's going to be very loud, and Florida also probably wants that game very badly too because they know how tough their schedule is, and getting Miami week 1 at home could be a game that they could get. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Then the other big game is Notre Dame and Texas A&M. It's kind of similar to Miami and Florida. Texas A&M could make the playoffs, but Notre Dame has a really good chance of making it. So for them to lose this game would be a massive loss, especially because they are an independent school, so they don't have that conference championship game, which can help them when the committee looks at their resume. So all these ranked versus ranked matchups for Notre Dame are really important. And it's also really important for Texas A&M because they have Notre Dame at home. And if they can win this game and maybe put together an impressive season when people don't really expect them to, maybe they find themselves in the playoff. Who knows? But it starts here. It starts with a win over Notre Dame. Without beating Notre Dame, I really don't see how they get in. So this is a very important game for both teams. And for it to be this early in the season, it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. Then finally, we have LSU and USC in Las Vegas. This game is kind of similar because the Trojans are trying to replace the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, and LSU is trying to replace the number 2 overall pick, Jaden Daniels. So 2 teams trying to kind of figure out where to go from here. And LSU has a very good chance of making the playoffs. Obviously, they're going to have to get by some really good teams in the SEC to do it. USC is a little more not in playoff contention, but they still could do it if things go their way. But it starts here with LSU. They would have to get a win here probably to have a shot at the playoffs. So LSU definitely needs games like this to go their way to have a chance. USC the same. So it's going to be a very interesting game and a very important game for both teams. But like I said, I will be making a full predictions video for all the week 1 games. And as always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.